So in this video we're going to be showing how to swap out the transmission cooler thermostat that's in here and swap it out with a bypass system. So on this year, I know some of the models have a Jiffy tight fitting that's in this block. This is a later model, 2020, so it's got this retainer plate that holds the lines in. We'll see what they look like when we get them out, but I think I think the end of the line looks fairly similar to the Jiffy tight. Just uses a different method here. So we're going to take those lines out, get this cleaned up a little bit, and then we're going to take the center bolt out here, take that bolt out and take the block off and do our disassembly and reassembly of the thermostat bypass on the bench. So let's get going. Okay, here we are. It's a 13 millimeter. I'm going to use a box wrench here just to crack this loose. It's not under a lot of torque there. And then there's a retainer bolt back here, which looks like probably a 10. So that's a 10 millimeter. I'm just going to break this loose as well. Again, that's not under a lot of torque. I've got these clips loose. I think what I'll do is I'll get this bolt out, this retainer, so we can get the lines off, and then we'll take the block off. This is a lot harder with the four-wheel drive, that's for sure. Take this retainer off. Just move it back for now. Pull these lines. Should be a little bit, get some fluid out. Should be pretty clean in here. I'm going to try and catch whatever comes. Lines out. There goes the retainer. There's that. Done draining. I'm just gonna place those out of the way. Get this retainer bolt out, and we'll get this out of the case. And this just comes out straight out. There's a couple posts. Catch the fluid here. Okay. Alright, and there's your thermostat block with the ports. And we'll take this over to the bench and get it torn down and replace the internals. All right, so here's our bypass. I have read that, or this is our cooler thermostat. I have read that there is a new version of this that's supposed to have 70 inscribed on it, to indicate a 70 Celsius temperature. And you can see I do not see 70 on here anywhere. So that tells me this is probably an older version, which is surprising since it's a 2020 vehicle. So we're going to change it out. What we're going to use is this Superior Solutions part number STL010. This is for the 6L80E, 2014 and up. It's a cooler bypass, or it's a full flow kit that eliminates the thermostat from the transmission cooler, and also has a bypass in case the cooler gets plugged or during cold temperatures when the fluid doesn't want to flow through it. It will bypass. There's a little check valve in there. So we'll get to that. First thing, let's get this apart. So there's a little snap ring on top. We're gonna try and clean that up a little bit. Okay. So I grab the snap ring. I want to make sure this doesn't fly across the room. Just gotta be careful pulling it out. We will be reusing the snap ring. There you go. Get it started. So it's in there pretty good. There we go. All right, so there's a snap ring. Okay. So the way this works, so now it's got an empty hole. The way this works is this little plug sits in here like this, and on a spring. But as it heats up, this little plunger is supposed to extend. And as it heats up, the plunger extends and compresses the spring, and it pushes down in that hole, which allows the fluid to come to, it blocks the hole. So whenever it's cold, there's no restriction down in that hole, and the fluid just comes in, goes straight down there, and then back out into the transmission. So whenever this gets hot, and it pushes down into that hole and plugs it, or blocks it off. I might not go in it, but it blocks it off. Yeah. And so then once it blocks it off, then it's going to force fluid out to the transmission cooler, and then when it comes back through here, it'll go back into the transmission. So it just blocks that port. But I've heard these can stick or fail, and if that's the case, you get no cooling. So this says 180 on it. I wonder if that's the temperature that it's supposed to open. So this is how it goes in there, like that. Like I said, whenever this is cold, fluid comes in, goes right past into the other port. So that's that. We'll look at our new parts. Unbox fix this. I gotta make sure you're reading the directions on all your stuff. There is one thing to really pay attention to here, is the orientation of this spring when you get it started. So I need to pay attention to that. So let's get this thing going. I'm gonna clean this up real fast. Okay, so we've got our housing good and clean, dried out. So we're gonna get into these parts here. Comes in the kit, or is a coil spring, a check ball, a couple of seals, and then this is the internals. Okay. So this appears to be a steel part. Got some preservative oil on it. Very well machined part. No sharp edges or burrs. The O-ring glands look good. Similarly here, great surface finish machining. All right, so I'm gonna clean these real quick just to get some of that preservative off, and then we'll start assembling. All right. So first thing we'll do, get these seals on per the directions. Make sure we have all the parts. So we're going to put this little O-ring on here. On this step, I'm just going to grab a little bit of transmission fluid to use as a little lube. Get it on, okay. And then we got to put these O-rings on. So, got one. See a lot of guys using picks to do this. I don't like to use any metal tools. And scratch the land, also making sure it's not twisted and they're good. Put the second one on here. Second one going. Make sure they're not twisted. Looking good. Okay, we got those seals on. Okay. We're going to insert the piston into the housing. Just going to put a little lubricant on there to try to get a little holding power. So then we'll drop this in. Goes in that hole. All the way in. Okay. Then we drop the ball into the bushing. So we have this side. Put the ball in. Okay. And then we have to put the spring. This is where it says, please pay attention. Make sure that you get this right. There's only one mistake you can make, is setting. You got to set the cone spring. The ball hits the small end down. So we got small end. We'll put the small end down. Okay. Now it says hold the housing at a slight angle as shown in the left picture. All right, so it's just showing us holding it sort of like this. We're going to slide the bushing in. Go over to the piston until the first ring is seated, and then we push it in to get the second ring seated. All right, so That's in there. Check ball's in the right spot. So try to make sure that this stays in there. So we're going to get this in. Okay, this feels like it's in there good. Okay. And that's it. So then we will install this snap ring. I'll get that cleaned up real quick. Alright, so here's a snap ring. Maybe did this side down. Just gonna make sure this is in all the way. Make sure snap ring is all the way down in the groove all the way around. And what I like to do also is push out on the snap ring all the way around, so you make sure that it's fully seated all the way around. All right, and that's it. You got your bypass installed. You're always going to have full flow, and if there is a case where it's not, the check ball will open and allow it to bypass the cooler. So go ahead and get this back in the vehicle. And I've got the lines, cooler lines, all cleaned up. And we go back on, so we have our retainer plate, and we have our deleted thermostat housing. So this goes up like that, and then the lines will go in the end. So we'll go ahead and get that. Go ahead and get the lines mocked in. So I went ahead and put just a little dab of transmission fluid in there just to help lubricate the fittings. And so is the way they go in. Yes, okay. So we'll get these in. One thing I did notice here with this retainer plate is that there is a direction. You can't put it in anyway, so it goes in that side up. If you flip it around, you won't be able to get it installed. So FYI, I'm put a little mark on it so I know which way is up. So we'll get that. Just like to get the lines kind of worked in by hand, so I know I'm not tweaking them. All right, and then we'll work on the block. Another screw. Send that home. This bolt in. Okay. And I'll go ahead and get these snapped back into their clips. There we go. One, number two. Okay. So now our lines all looking good. Go ahead and cinch it down. Got a 10 and a 13. 13. Go ahead. I'm going to do the tube line first. Not a lot of movement shaft anyway. Alright, so once that gets down, just snug it. Alright, and then we'll do the block. Right, now everything is tightened back up and forced. Everything should be good and sealed. Alright, now we move up to the top to complete the fill and get this thing ready to roll.